Okay, all right, great. I'm being told we are now live, so we can start our membership meeting. Let me please call to order the 2020 NAHJ membership meeting. Welcome everyone, beginning with our National Board members, our staff, and of course the members of NAHJ. As we've said all along this week, it's amazing to see all of you virtually, and it's been an amazing experience so far, but todos extrañamos ese calorcito that we all get when we see each other in person, when we get to hug each other and talk to each other. So I'm missing that very, very much, but I'm also enjoying this new normal for however long it is, or maybe it is for a hybrid will be part of the new normal. But I have enjoyed the conference and the quality of the sessions, which I feel we haven't skipped a beat. So all recognition and thanks goes to our programming chairs, Roberto and Blanca, and of course the dozens and dozens of volunteers, and of course to Alberto and our staff. I mean, talk about making small miracles. It literally is to be able to produce something so quickly and of such high caliber. To keep me honest, I'll transition into the President's report. I think I guess, started with this conference, but I'll definitely allow Alberto and Blanca and Roberto to amplify what a success this virtual conference has been. For my part, again, very appreciative, including to the members. We've seen incredible numbers in regards to registrations, record-breaking numbers in regards to members of NAHJ, and the partnership with NABJ continues to be a very solid one. So much so that the decision was made pre-COVID-19, but the fact that we'll be together in 2022 in another 2 years, hopefully in person in Las Vegas, speaks a lot to this partnership and the need to continue to collaborate, not only with NABJ, but of course with other journalism organizations as well. I'll start, with this year. What an incredible year it's been so far. None of us could have imagined a year ago, after our national conference, that we would be in this situation, both as a journalist and also personally. I'm very proud of all of the work that the members have done in their respective places of work, and certainly through NAHJ, beginning with Palabra. I think when we launched Palabra, we had the intention was for us to draw from the well of experience and talent of NAHJ members in telling stories about us, from us, but more than that, really diving deeper to what unfortunately many other media outlets just scratch the surface. And so during the pandemic, in the aftermath of George Floyd, to really see Palabra continue to blossom, to continue to be nurtured by our members it has exceeded my expectations, and I hope it's also exceeded yours. We'll be talking after I'm done with the President's report about another milestone, another way that NAHJ continues to lead in this space, and that's with the Cultural Competency Guide. As we've said all this week, it is a necessary tool that complements the Associated Press's style book that is intended for all journalists in all newsrooms, because we know that while we as an organization continue to knock on doors, continue to make the case for diversity, equity, and inclusion in newsrooms, not just from a perspective of reaching out to the community, from a journalism perspective, from a business perspective, we also need to work with all journalists, regardless of their background. And so this is intended to do that. And the response has been very positive. I've seen responses on social media. I've gotten responses, and others have shared as well, the feedback from newsrooms, and even the newsrooms that are just having moments of pause. And that's really what we want, right? We want to spark conversations, spark debate, have newsroom leaders and journalists to take a moment of pause and before they go out, especially as we're now in the home stretch of the election. And of course, as it is every 2 years, the Hispanic Latino vote is important for them to, when they're covering our community, take a pause and take a different perspective in news gathering than they were before this guide was released. So I'm very proud of that as well. The last 2 years, I think everybody who serves on the board, both locally and nationally, will say it goes from a blink of an eye, and you always finish thinking I haven't done enough, or I wish I could have done more. But I'll tell you, I'm so grateful for the boards that I've worked with in the last 2 years, and in particularly the board that I'm ending my tenure with, because what we all faced with the pandemic was extraordinary, unprecedented. And to tell you how we came together, and they as individuals, without hesitating, doubled down on being on the board, on the work that was necessary with NAHJ. I'm eternally grateful. If I've had any success in the last 2 years, it's really been on the shoulders of this board, on this staff, and for that I'm great. I think I always tell Alberto this. I go, if I did anything right in the last 2 years, was get out of his way, get out of the way of the staff, of the board, and really be a support to them with the many ideas that they've had, and let them go with it. And for that, and I think that the proof is in the pudding in regards to where our organization is now versus 2 years, which was in great shape 2 years ago. But you always want to leave dejando tu granita de arena and thinking, great, I helped a little bit push it forward, but I feel like we, the board, the staff, the members, have elevated NAHJ to yet another chapter in its rich history, and I'm so excited about the next board coming in, the next chapters that they will write alongside our staff and volunteers. And then the last thing I'll say, and this is something that is, as you know, near and dear to me, and that's diversity, equity, and inclusion, and advocacy for journalism and for journalists. And I think it's important to continue for NAHJ to continue to work in this space unapologetically, confidently, moving NAHJ, whether it's a member or certainly serving as a board. We're often in a situation where people kind of applaud us publicly, and then behind closed doors have different things to say. I mean, to be politically correct, that's not perhaps as enthusiastic as what they say publicly. But this, for many of us, this is just normal, right? We very quickly needed to feel comfortable at being uncomfortable, whether we were the only Latinos in the newsroom, whether we were the only person of color in the newsroom, or a marginalized, a member of a marginalized community. We know what it feels like to be in those positions. It's so important that NAHJ continue to work in this space. It's so important for NAHJ to continue to push. It's so important for NAHJ to get into good trouble, to quote the late great Don Lewis. This is the work that we need to do, because every inch that we get, it's fought with a lot of people rolling up their sleeves, getting to work, and being unafraid of facing what sometimes can be a Herculean opposition. If I've ever spoken with confidence, if anyone was ever interested in my opinion, it's because they're not really interested in Hugo Valta. They're interested in Hugo Valta, a member of NAHJ, a member of the board. And it's something that I've, this twice now, have never taken lightly, have always appreciated it, and was always very conscious of, I speak for more than just myself. For the next board, I'm here for you. I will be ex officio for another year and work in any capacity that you see fit. But as I've told many members of the board, here for you for whatever comes next for you professionally and personally, and how I can be of help. And that's it. I not much, to report in regards to numbers as far as where we are financially, membership, etc. I'll leave that for others to say. For me, it's all about the mission, which has been a guiding light for me as professionally and personally, and that is to champion for the fairness of Hispanic Latinos in newsrooms and in news coverage. And I've lived by that mission. I will continue to live by that mission. It has brought me more, NHJ has given me more than I could ever give back, but I'm gonna try. So thank you very much. I'm gonna now pass it on to Alberto, I believe, so we can talk a little bit more about the culturally competency guide and the rollout. Alberto?
Sure, and thank you, Hugo, and all of you. Thank you, board members, for being a part of this. It is a lot of work, as many of you see, and I don't think you get the credit for all the stuff you have to manage. On top of that, as volunteers, I know this is a heavy lift. And Hugo, you came at a time, on your first term when the organization was getting back up, and to be on the other end of it when it continues to thrive, I think is really something you should be very proud of. Of course, it's a collective effort. Everybody contributes. I think Michelle Salcedo, as president, made some tough decisions that saved the organization from completely going under. Hugo continued, Mikalo, Brandon, and so on. And so it's a collective effort. And I'm very proud and excited to be on this other end, at least on my 5-year anniversary. So one of the two things that I just wanted to update, and actually they're going to be a little bit a part of my ED report as well, is that we launched the Cultural Competency Guide. So that was as you guys know, something you've been tracking and following. It's been a labor of love, in part because what we tend to find is that when newsrooms make insensitive comments, or they ponen el pie en la boca, como dicen, we go at them, we have a meeting with them, and then essentially that's over, right? There's really nothing to hold them to or hold them accountable or even provide a resource. So the Cultural Competency Guide is to give us a little bit of a reference point as this is where you can start. So it's a resource for newsrooms so that they can look at it, then call us or ask questions, but give you what the impact is of using words and cultural context. Latinos, as Biden got himself into trouble the other day, we're very, very diverse from, we identify with different words from different parts of the country, depending on where we are. And so this guide is to give you a context of what some of those words mean, but also the cultural context. And our process was we worked with 2 different journalists who kind of got the guide going. We had a round, and Nancy was a part of that as well, a round of 3 newsroom directors that reviewed and gave us feedback. Then we went back and modified it. Then we took it to 10 more news directors who gave us feedback. Then we brought it back in, and then we gave it to the executive committee for final feedback. So this process has been about 9 months, up and down. And considering COVID, I think people have been very, very generous with giving us as much time as they could to give us feedback. We do call it a living, breathing document, which means that it's a resource for newsrooms, but we will be updating it as words change or certain things we find that we needed to address weren't included or need to be included. We'll be doing that pretty much, I would say, quarterly to annually. Now, no, this is not funded by anybody. This is an NHJ funded project. So this is an investment that we've made. Perhaps we will look for funding if there's a request for printing, but for our end, as an online resource, it's something we're committed to do. The next part of this manual will come out in Spanish, and the goal is to have it by the end of this year, early next quarter. It'll be the same. As we know with Spanish language media, they're not absent from getting themselves into trouble as it relates to how Latinos are referred to. There's a big difference when you bring in journalists from other parts of the world that come to work here, and when they talk about Latinos in the US, sometimes they're missing that cultural context themselves. So we want to be able to, again, provide that resource as a starting tool. When in doubt, look here, start here. And then my goal is, and my hope is also that perhaps, and I've started that conversation with my fellow allied EDs from AHJA, NAHJ, NLGJA, and NABJ about perhaps doing one master guide that includes terms from all of the organizations, so that it's a resource that, again, it's kind of in the spirit of unity, keeping a guide that really addresses kind of who we are as a people in different settings and different experiences. So it is launched, it will evolve, it will continue, and I think that's a resource that we should all be very proud of. Any questions on the guide itself? Yvette?
There is a question from Rafael Olmeda. I think he just wants more details of the breakdown of who compiled the competency guide, who are the authors, what was the editorial process. I know you just outlined some of it, but it sounds like maybe he wants more specifics.
Do we need to do that out here? I mean, we could send an email, but we had Eileen Trox, that was a former board member that started the process. Cora Cervantes was a journalist that continued with that process. And then, I don't immediately remember the list of the other journalists from the newsrooms that looked at it. I know Nancy was, I believe, I don't remember the full list because they brought in different people. But again, I think we've had at least 25 people internally and externally look at it. And so it gives us an opportunity to feel confident that we're putting out something that's of value. And the response has been very positive. Again, I don't ever expect anything to be perfect, but it's a great starting point to take action, and I feel good about it. Okay. Another update on Palabra, as many of you guys know, I think we might have even mentioned at the meeting in September, well, we did talk about that we were launching Palabra, and we had a soft launch at the end of, in November. The intent at the time was that we would be publishing quarterly. At the time, NAHJ had mostly made an investment. We didn't have secure funding for that. But by March, when COVID hit, I was also able to generate fundraising and support for that from 2 different foundations. And now we have raised about $300,000 for Palabra specifically, where we are producing content by freelance journalists. We are now producing content weekly, and we are producing it also bilingual, in stories that are bilingual, created by the same journalists when possible. So we're seeing a huge interest in this as a possibility for growth. It has its legs. The funding is there for the next 1.5 years. And we continue to grow. Ricardo Sandoval has been doing a fantastic job as our managing editor. From that, we know that at least 2 people have been offered full-time jobs. 2 other folks have been offered part-time jobs or project-based work. And then 2 others have been offered to be a part of guests and lecturers in different events. So there's something that's happening with the spotlight on the work that is being done by these freelancers, but also I think it's standing out with a lot of folks who are looking at the content that we're doing, where some journalists have been asked to strip their culture away or their cultural identity away, when you're creating content that puts it front and center. I think it produces a different product, and it's really standing out. We are fielding different kinds of partnerships requests with us, so that we can kind of look to expand the audience and also engage more. So I think we're now getting to the phase where we're going to have more open pitch opportunities. We can add more editing support and again, more freelancers, but it's already considered a success, and it's something that's really growing. So we're very excited to see that. Questions on palabra? Okay, I think from here it goes to Geraldine for the finance report.
Am I doing
Yeah, we
finance and
have.
election back to back, right?
Yes, hold on a second. So in the agenda that I have, we first have regional updates. Do you want to do that first, or do you want to do the finance report
No,
and talk about election?
your last meeting, so you choose.
Wait, to be clear, there's one more board meeting.
No, I mean last member meeting.
Last membership annual meeting, yes.
Let's go with you, Geraldine. Let's go with you.
Okay.
Let's talk about finances and the election, and then
Yeah.
we'll get back to.
Okay, so we approved in 2019 for 2020 a 1.5 million budget, right? So far from January to June, our income has been 1,222,000, and our expenses have been 383,000. And usually at this point of the year, mid-year, you would, well, no, it's not mid-year, it's a little bit over mid-year, but you would want to see it sort of be kind of even. But because a good chunk of our expenses are tied to NABJ and NAHJ 2020, we won't see the sort of all of the expenses come in until after the end of the convention, correct? So we'll see that even out as in the next month or two. We thought, obviously, at the beginning of the year, especially when the pandemic hit, that we were going to have to readjust our budget. But thankfully, Alberto has been brilliant about fundraising. And he was able to bring in this year over $800,000 in grants, which is an amazing number in fundraiser. And I think, a big round of applause is due to Alberto for his very, very hard work for us. And so basically, any impact that we've seen by COVID-19 in terms of the conference, it's sort of been made up by the amount of money that Alberto has been able to bring in with his relationships and the grants from the Ford Foundation and Democracy Fund and Toyota. So Alberto, again, thank you so much. If our money market account, which is basically our cash flow account, is doing very well. So for the first time in a long time, I think we have there about 6 months to operate if we were not to ever bring any revenue, which is incredible because that's sort of what any financial advisor would tell anybody, that you want to have in savings, right? About 6 months worth of your salary. So that's sort of where we're at right now, which is a great position to be in. Our investment account has around $700,000, a little bit over that. And even though the market has seen a big influx because of COVID-19, Alberto, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're doing okay, just because of the kind of investments that we have. And I think we're up 4.6%. And the last thing that I want
5.76%.
For what?
5.76%, and the general market has been up 0.3%. Because of the flexibility. So we're actually in a very good position, but only about a third of our investments are actually in the market itself. So that helps minimize our risk.
Correct. And the last thing I wanted to remember and point out to everybody is that at the end of last year, we approved 4 different policies to sort of, it does a couple of things. It updates our policies, which hadn't been updated in a long time. And it also added policies that our auditors kept mentioning to us we should have as a good standard practice. And those are the whistleblower policy, the social media policy, the gift policy, and the document retention policy. And I think that is the big overview on finances, and I'll open the floor for any questions.
Geraldine, I think something to share and that, we do a mid-year budget review process every year, no matter what. But again, this year was especially sensitive. So one of the things that we did was that while we didn't change the overall bottom line with the budget itself, because the line items were going to be different, we altered those based on how the economy had shifted for us. So the national convention usually has a lot of expenses, especially kind of leading up to it because of the hotel, the flights. And then when you have the convention, you have the food and beverage amounts and so on. So those are the things that we won't see this year, which is something that's quite, makes your eyes kind of look twice when you look at how low the expenses are in a virtual convention. So we are missing something, but we're gaining something. And so Geraldine and I spent quite a few hours going over the budget multiple times to ensure that we were going to what the recommendation was going to be to the executive committee and full board. And so what we did again was rearrange some of the line items. At the time, the line item for income on the grants themselves was $340,000, $350,000, I apologize. We just crossed, we're at $843,000 just in the line item of grants, with probably a few more pending. So we just wanted to make sure that we balance things out now that we knew where things would be coming in. And I think we are in a really good position to end the year again in the red, I'm sorry, in the black, with a surplus. But
in the red, man.
no.
It's in the black.
If we spend that much money, we'd be in trouble. But no, we're in really good shape. And again, I think that when I started, and I shared with you guys, we had zero money from grants that were for operational support that were not connected to the convention. And 85% of our revenue came from the convention. So that was kind of goal number one, is to diversify your funding in the event that something terrible happens where you cannot hold a convention. And when we were facing that reality earlier this year, luckily for us, we were in that position where we thought, okay, we may not have a convention, but we were fine. We are in the great financial position that if we hadn't, then we would be okay to continue. And that takes a lot of work. And this is going to be the first year, I think, and I don't know if all the records, but at least since I've been here, that the grants from foundations and other grants are going to generate more revenue than the actual convention. And that's a big deal. So it's a good place to be. It doesn't always happen. You know, the grants come in cycles. And so we've been at it for a few years. Last year, we were at over 500,000 in grants. So, well, we'll keep at it. You know, it's not realistic to expect that it's always going to be the same way until we can forecast a little bit different. But our main grantors with those are the Knight Foundation, the Ford Foundation especially, and Democracy Fund. MacArthur Foundation, Logan Foundation, and Dow Jones Foundation are some of the ones that are giving us the greater bumps of grants.
Alberto, I was going to wait till later in the meeting to have you speak to us a little bit about what we discussed with the board in regards to the 2021 conference. But I think since we're talking about finances, we're talking about this year's conference and how we got here. I'd like for you to share with us some thoughts in regards to some of the decision that this board will need to make in about next year's conference. Can you please share some thoughts with our members?
Sure. I think the world obviously has changed significantly. This convention is an example of resilience that the organizations have, that we were able to kind of take and jump into action and create something at the last minute that was still going to benefit our members, that would still connect them with recruiters, that would still provide content. But there were moments where we didn't know what was going to happen, as many of you know. And I think we're living with the pandemic now. Not everybody's observing it, not everybody's believing the hype, not everybody's experiencing loss, but the pandemic is still here and very central. And there's no immediate sense that we're going to have a vaccine or determine how people are going to get that. And so our national convention is a year away, less than a year away. It would be in Miami. It's scheduled to be in Miami in mid-July. I don't have a lot of confidence that come July that we are going to be in the position to actually hold a successful convention, especially as it relates to financially. I think that we are already seeing that media companies are contracting, they're laying off people. We know the economy itself is struggling. There's no vaccine. And I believe that if we have a national convention in person next July, that we might be in trouble. We are on our own. There are no partners. Because we're partnering with NABJ in 2022, 2024, and 2026, we are doing our own convention every year in between that. And so I think it's important that we start looking at the potential of actually just deciding to move and have an online convention for 2021. I don't think you need to make that decision now. And I think that's one of the things why you wanted to have us share, Hugo, is share that with our members and get their feedback and some thoughts on what that would be like and what your preference would be. I think it's hard right now for people to decide what's going to happen in July, but I don't know how many people actually have the confidence to make a bold decision and say we will be we'll be fine by then, and commit to spending the kind of money that it takes to get to Miami, fly, hotel, and so on at a time where people's employment may be in question. In addition, I know that the sponsors are probably going to be scaling back as well, and so again, we're going to take feedback. The idea that we're looking at is potentially having a convention that almost extends in time frame, so that we are doing more training year round, that we're doing more job fairs year round, that all of them have a virtual component, and that the convention is an event in itself that same weekend, but not the only event. We want to make sure that as many members can access the opportunities for more training and the virtual job fair that potentially puts them in front of their next boss. But I think that we could be in danger next year. We would be up first in July. And, I think we didn't get lucky because we jumped into action, but I think we have a decision to make whether how proactive we want to be with this. And the more time you have, the easier it is to work with the hotel to figure out what those liabilities could be that you would be getting away from. We have a very good relationship with the Intercontinental in Miami, which is our selection hotel. We could leverage that. I know that they have been getting requests for the dates and things at least one of the weeks, the week that we have. So having someone that can pick up those dates would be even easier to be able to get out of that contract. But it's something that's very serious and something that we have to really think about. I know we all want to be in person, but I don't even know realistically if we all wanted to be in person, if that's something that's going to happen. And what we can't afford to do is we can't afford to move forward. Either way, there's going to be a hybrid component. There's going to be a digital online component, but the liabilities for the food and beverage amounts and all those things at the hotel, I don't believe that we're going to be able to meet successfully without taking a big risk that our folks are going to show up. And since we're not paying you guys to come out, it becomes a big commitment on companies. The corporate budgets are approved in September and October, mostly October. We're looking at having our sponsorship package, all that ready at the end of this month of August, because we want to be ready. I think we're going to be in a stronger position to make a decision to pitch what kind of convention we're moving forward with, rather than kind of a mixture or kind of a question. When a sponsor comes out, and that is the reality, the sponsors are mostly the ones that support the money generated and the money spent at the conventions. But if they give us a sponsorship of $50,000, they're probably spending another $25,000 to $50,000 on shipping their booth, bringing staff, hotel, flights, and so on. And I just don't see that's going to happen next year with all the different groups. And we're all, again, backed up year to year. So first it's us, and then it's NABJ, then it's AHJA, and so on. So we're gonna be in the position, I think, where people are gonna pick whether they do NAHJ or not. And while we might be at the top of the list, it's definitely gonna have an effect across all of the organizations next year.
Thank you, Alberto. And I really want to hear from the members. And look, I know it's a lot to digest for all of us, right? The first thing I said at the beginning of this meeting is, as wonderful as the experience has been this week, there's no substitute for being together in one space. But for all the reasons that Alberto has outlined, we've got a tough decision to make, not just from a business perspective, but from a health and safety perspective. And we need to make it as soon as possible. You know, we were thrusted into this situation unexpectedly, of course, in March and in April, but now a couple of weeks later, still in the middle of a pandemic, but having gone through the experience, we need to act as assertively and within a reasonable time as possible, in order not to, you know, I mean, this isn't about just making a decision to be in the black. I mean, it's just making a decision, and still the uncertainty of what's going to happen moving forward. But as best as possible, we need to make those decisions. We need to, you know, that figuratively continue to put those sandbags on a levee that continues to threaten to burst. And the fact, you know, as Geraldine mentioned, the fact that we are in solid financial footing despite COVID-19, it's in large part because of the leadership of Alberto, and I continue to, as the board does and the staff, to listen to his perspective as he leads us through these uncharted waters. But we want to hear from you. We want to make sure that as the board discusses with Alberto about the decision to make, that we have top of mind what your thoughts are as well.
Anyhow, I wanted to thank the board for our time together. And that's the end of the financial report.
Yeah.
Okay, if there aren't any questions about finances, then we can move Geraldine to talk about the election.
Great. So as you guys have probably seen by now, this year the election committee has been working along with an advisory committee that the board helped us set up. And we have put in place a couple of changes that we haven't seen before in an election that I think has helped us make the process a little bit easier now. In order for us to change the process for elections, it would require a bylaws change. But obviously there's a separate thing happening on bylaws. But one of the things that we did do that I hope it continues on for years to come is the membership form, which basically allows members whose dues are already current to nominate someone for the board. That has made the process a lot easier for our staff, AE Janet, for us in the election committee and the advisory committee. In terms of the positions, most races look like they're going to be contested. The only race that is a little bit in trouble right now, and they might not have any candidates, is the student representative. So if you know of a student who's trying to run for the board, I can't get involved, obviously, because I'm in the election committee, but, you know, help people wrangle to get enough signatures for the students so they can get on the ballot. And besides that, I just wanted to thank the advisory board and the elections committee for their hard work. We're meeting every week. We're trying to make this process as easy as possible and as fun as possible. And be on the lookout. We are going to have, usually the candidates would get a chance to sort of speak during this meeting at the convention, but because we're not there and the election's being held later, we will be holding a candidate forum, hopefully via Zoom, where everybody can come in and all the candidates who do get on the ballot will sort of give a statement and take questions from members. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you.
Any questions on the upcoming elections? I don't see anything up yet. Okay, you know, a couple of thoughts. First of all, thank you very much for the members that have thrown their hat in the ring to be considered to serve on the national board. I think all of the positions are contested, so really great to see that. Thank you very much for again seeking to serve our great organization. Next on the agenda is, let's go to regional updates, and we'll begin with Region 1, Rafael Mejia.
Don't forget to unmute yourselves.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all for being here. I'm very happy to be at the last day of our virtual conference. This is a very new thing for us, but I've been enjoying the conference the way it is right now. So speaking about the region, Region 1 covers Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands, and I've been very honored to be director of this region for the past 5 years. And one of the things that I need to highlight this year is that I started being a director of this region with 16 regular members at that time. There was a crisis in Puerto Rico, and now we are at, the numbers are around 195. So I've seen this is a very successful year for us, and this is a teamwork. I need to thank Yaneth to help with the membership, Leslie Ann, the efforts with the student chapters and everything, BA with everything that she has done with her team and everything, and of course Alberto for giving a lot of importance to Puerto Rico since, of course, the tragedy that happened with Hurricane Maria, and all the support to our members through all these years. And now we have a strong region, and I hope that they could keep working a lot with the things that we need to be done and the information that we need to actually share with their audiences. This year, I need to actually be very proud to have our national student representative, Angelica Serrano, is from Region 1, finally after several years. So Angelica, I'm very proud of you and all the work that you have done. And I'm very proud that now you're gonna be a master's student at NYU. I'm gonna be there for you, helping and cheering you up, because you are a very energetic student and you have been great as our student representative. Thank you for all your help, helping me with the region. Now that I have to share this year being regional director and Spanish at-large officer, you have been helping me a lot with the region, so I thank you for that. This year, we had the honor to have 5 students who won scholarships, and you know, with NAHJ, I had Amanda Ortiz from Sagrado Corazon, Alanis Quiñones from Sagrado Corazon, Adriana Tirado from University of Puerto Rico from Arecibo, Roy Roman from NAHJ Mendez, and of course, Angelica Serrano from Sagrado Corazon. Congratulations to all of you, and I hope you can keep being great students and future leaders in our organization. I have to actually highlight this year also that we had a great student boot camp at Telemundo Puerto Rico last November when we could be together. This was organized by the staff, especially Leslie Ann and Angelica work a lot for this project. I had the honor to speak with the students, to be one of the host there and talk to them. And I know people from the board and our members who went there, who participated and gave their time to talk to the students. That was amazing, and we hope that we can keep doing that for years and years to come. Also, I had the honor to be part of different workshops and visiting universities and stations when we could do it before the pandemic. And I have to highlight that I had a great orientation at the FIU chapter in the University of Florida International University. I was invited as Spanish at large, and also to have an orientation for that region, so we can merge Region 1 and Region 4. There was an amazing moment also. And also during this pandemic, we have been offering chats, conversations, and workshops through Zoom and other platforms. One of the highlights that I had is the University of Puerto Rico from Arecibo. That chapter hosted a workshop for students from professionals, and I was one of the panelists from there, talking about journalism and entertainment and the fusion of them. So thank you for that chapter for being so active. And I also need to highlight chapter of Sagrado Corazon that has been always there for the region as well. Also, we had the first chat via Zoom talking about Palabra, and I was the host of that, and it was an amazing experience, hosted and organized by BA. And thank you for that, because you know the region and the students and everybody was there, and I think we can keep doing this if we're gonna keep actually communicating with each other through these platforms. I'm very honored to have been regional director for these past 5 years. I've been in 3 different boards with 3 different presidents and 3 different co-workers and colleagues that have been helping me, and I've been learning from them. I need to actually thank Alberto, because I think we started together when you started 5 years ago, and I know that we have been growing as an organization, and I've been there watching you and your staff doing a lot of work, but a lot of work to take us to the place that we are now. So I need to thank you, Alberto, for all your commitment. I need to thank Leslie Ann. I need to thank Yaneth. I need to thank Junwen and BA and Veritas, because without you, I don't know where we're gonna be, you know? And I need to thank this board, Hugo, Geraldine, Yvette, Robert, Finn, Melissa, Johnny, Blanca, everybody, Christy, Nancy, because, oh my, I've been reading all of you now. Because we all have been together, and when this pandemic started, we were kind of lost, and what are we gonna do now and everything, and we started meeting, and we've been through a lot of difficult positions that we can say it now, and we've learned from that. We've learned a lot from that, because we're a team and we have been working together. I've been honored to work with you guys, and I hope to keep seeing you and helping you con lo que yo pueda. Como soy del Spanish at Large, le digo en español, muchas gracias a todos, muchas gracias a los presentes por estar aquí. Una de las cosas que debemos hacer es siempre estar unidos y no ver nuestras diferencias, sino ver nuestras similitudes, y tratar de siempre, siempre, siempre ser un equipo. Una vez nos llamábamos familia, preferimos llamar equipo. ¿Saben por qué? Porque el equipo sí trabaja juntos. Las divisiones no nos llevan a ningún lado. Y yo creo que la única manera de permanecer unidos, ahora que estamos tan distanciados, es que realmente amemos esta organización y sepamos que ella nos va a mantener unidos como latinos que somos. Así que no me queda más nada que darles las gracias con el corazón, y bueno, nos vemos pronto.
Muchas gracias, Rafa. Un abrazo muy fuerte aquí desde Chicago. Y felicidades. Felicidades por tu trabajo, por el equipo en Puerto Rico. De verdad que ha sido un orgullo ver cómo, en gran parte por tu liderazgo, el crecimiento de los capítulos, especialmente con los estudiantes de Puerto Rico. Un abrazo muy fuerte y muchas gracias.
Gracias a ti.
All right, let's continue with Region 2 Director Mónica Castillo.
Thank you, and greetings from Region 2, a region that includes Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York. Yeah, a whole bunch of folks. I'm so excited to report that we have just around 400 members. And I wanted to give a quick shout out to Karina and Keldy, chapter presidents for New England and New York, who I saw listening in. I stepped into the role back in the fall, and unfortunately in spring we had to put a lot of things on hold, so it kind of disrupted some of the conversations that we were having about potential events. But I'm hoping to get some of those back on track now that some of these chapters have started moving into more virtual events. So I was talking to the student chapters of Columbia and CUNY Newmark to potentially collaborate on something, and I look forward to getting them back involved once the semester starts anew, and check in with their chapters and just see how they're doing and see what can we do for students, whether they're on campus or off. There's still got to be something that we can help them with. And then the New England and New York chapter elections are coming up. I'm going to be holding them in time for the overall elections. And then New York chapter has transitioned into virtual events. We just recently had a panel on the discussion of coronavirus coverage in New York City, and we're going to potentially reschedule some of the stuff that we had planned in the spring. So I'm very excited, lots to look forward to, and I can't wait to work with more folks in the region.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you for your great work. You know, one of the things I love about Monica and also the next regional director that I will be introducing is this is leadership that is coming from, and Geraldine included, coming from the chapters. I mean, that's wonderful to see. You know, we've got a great pipeline of leaders at the local level that are have been and will continue to serve on the national level. And I think that consistency is what's going to help our great organization continue to thrive. With that said, another wonderful, talented, and experienced member of the national board coming from local, Region 3 Director Melissa Macaya.
Hi, everyone. Buenos dias. Happy Saturday. Thank you to everyone from our membership that's connecting today. And a big congrats again to the staff and Robert and Blanca and everyone for the successful virtual conference. My name is Melissa Macaya. I'm the Region 3 Director. I did formerly serve on our local DC chapter. I see our current president, Patricia Guadalupe, is online. So hello, Patricia. Our region is spread out in DC, Maryland, Virginia, Philadelphia, Delaware, and Kentucky. This was my first year on the national board, and it really has been a privilege and pleasure to serve on the board and learn together, and I look forward to the work that we continue to do. Despite of the pandemic and the postponement of several events, I'm very proud of the creative ways that the chapters in the region have stayed active and aim to serve our members during this at times challenging time. So I'll start my report by just zooming out a bit on the region and then zooming in on our 2 active professional chapters in the region. So in our region, we have about 400 members. Out of those, about 250 are in good standing, meaning they've paid their membership dues or they're lifetime members. In the weeks coming into the conference, if you are part of my region, you probably received some emails from me inviting you to rejoin us. We have about 200 members whose membership has lapsed. So if you know someone in Region 3 that you know used to be a member, please help us in getting them back. So I'm hoping that those numbers continue to grow after the convention ends this weekend. In terms of our chapters, as I said, we have 2 really active chapters. I'll start by the DC chapter. The DC chapter has about 150 members in the DC area. A lot of our members also come from Virginia and Maryland, and of course the nation's capital. The chapters already had their chapter election, so we have a full board in place. And they have an active board. They've been holding meetings, board meetings throughout this time, and they've also done some really great events throughout the year. So just to name a few, in the fall, thanks to Lucio Villa, who's also been planning this conference, he helped strengthen the communication workflows of the chapter and revamping their website, their email template, their email list as well. In December, the chapter held a really great membership meeting at CVS and their new CVS CV News studios. We had a great talk with a recruiter and bureau chief, so it was a really great event. The chapter has continued to award their yearly Charlie Erickson supplement in honor of our dear Charlie Erickson, who was a longtime member in DC and he's now in the California area. But every year we award, the chapter awards 4 of those supplements to students that are interning in the DC area. And they also match the students with a mentor. And the chapter actually has a student outreach committee member or board member that is our liaison between the local chapter and those student chapters. In April, they held a really great virtual Google training thanks to Janet and Yunwen and all of their great efforts. That was a great and successful virtual training with Google. In April, unfortunately, due to COVID-19, one of the biggest events that the chapters hold is the Washington Journalism Job Fair. They had to postpone that. They're hoping to still be able to hold it in 2021, and that's a really wonderful event in partnership with the other journalism groups, including the local NAHJ chapter and the Asian American Journalist chapter in the area. So they had a great list of recruiters already lined up, but unfortunately, you're going to have to postpone that to next year, but we're so confident that that'll be a great success and a great opportunity to try to get more Latinos in newsrooms and more journalists of color in newsrooms. In May, the board, the DC board, unanimously passed an emergency resolution to support the National Board's Elections Committee, and several of the chapter members, including Brandon Benavides, has actively been helping us on the Elections Committee that I'm a part of, and helping us get members to fill the ballots, and they've been really great at guiding us. And then in June, they gave some convention assistance to our chapter members to be able to attend the conference. And coming up this afternoon, if you don't have any plans, they are going to be holding their Noche de Periodistas fundraiser, a socially distanced gathering, but they're also going to have a virtual gathering. Tickets are $40, so if you want that information, we can drop the link in here. And then goals moving forward, they're looking to do more trainings ahead of the big election, presidential election that's right around the corner, increase their memberships, and partner with new news outlets. And then very briefly, really exciting, we had a new chapter join the region this year, the Philly chapter, and they really hit the ground running. A big thank you to Yaneth and the staff for helping support that new chapter. They have about 50 members in the Philly area. The board is very active in just a short amount of time. They've really done some incredible events. They did a bilingual talk event with Tom Llamas from ABC News in February. They also did a Google virtual training in February. They got a grant in March to support their efforts in the Philly area. They've also, when the pandemic hit, they partnered with the Society of Ibero Latin American Medical Professionals to do Spanish language videos to inform the membership. They've been actively doing fun kind of virtual gatherings, including a quarantini that they did in May. And they also did a virtual workshop about how to stay relevant as a journalist in COVID-19. And several of the students in that chapter have been participating in our student boot camp. So looking forward in the next year, we're looking to increase membership, helping to support them as they are a new chapter, and helping them also connect with their DC chapter, and possibly in the future do a job fair similar like we do. And then lastly, we do have 2 student chapters in our region. We have one in American University. They have about 50 active students. So I'm hoping to work with Priscila Alvarez, who's our DC chapter student outreach chair, to try to continue to revitalize that chapter. Students are so important to us and are such a big part of really preparing the next generation. So we're really looking forward to having continue to build that chapter in DC. And then we do have a University of Maryland chapter that has gone quite dormant. So we're looking to really, they're still active. We still have students there that attend our local events, but we're really going to be looking this year to try to support them in this upcoming year to revitalize that chapter. And I think that's what I've got. Thank you again to our staff, to my wonderful other board members for their support and guidance. I will remind folks that the call for nominations for this election is due, or the deadline is this Wednesday at midnight. So please submit those signatures this upcoming Wednesday on August 12th. And I also wanted to take the opportunity to thank Geraldine. This is her last not our last board meeting, our last membership meeting. And she has been so wonderful, such a mentor to me. So Jera, thank you so much. Thank you so much for leading our elections committee. And thank you for being a mentor for me throughout this NHJ adventure. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Wonderful work. Please give my congratulations to all the members of the chapter. Thank you so much for your leadership. Continuing the list of local leaders who stepped up and served on the national board, Region 4 Director Elwin Lopez.
Hey guys, so I'm the Region 4 Director, which represents Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. NHJ Atlanta has just concluded the second mentorship program. That's a program where the chapter selects a number of students who are then nominated by their journalism, either teachers or staff there. And the chapter pairs them with professional journalists. Many of those students have participated in the virtual convention. This is the first time engaging with the convention, so they said it was a great success. The chapter also held the first Q&A with CNN recruiters, which was exclusive to the mentees. And then the chapter also partnered with SPJ Georgia and the Atlanta Press Club, as well as AAJA, to put together resources for journalists covering protests here in Georgia that went out to all the local members here. And now they're working on putting together a virtual panel with SPJ Georgia, which is scheduled for October. This will be about populations that are disproportionately affected by COVID. The chapter is also setting up virtual workshops to help journalism students. These will all be related to news gathering and procedural gatherings, such as how to fill out a FOIA, for example. NHJ Atlanta is also preparing to hold elections. They're working on that now. We also have a new student chapter at UNC, which was approved on Wednesday. Julian Berger and Angelica Edwards are co-founders. Thank you so much, Leslie Ann, for helping make that possible. Angelica is the president, Julian is the VP. They have about 15 members registered, but are continuing to grow, and they are looking forward to collaborating with NABJ chapter there, the student chapter there at UNC, as well as the Carolina Latinx Center. NHJ Central Florida has appointed an election committee that is organizing the electoral process right now following the convention. They have funded registration for 12 members to attend the convention. They provided grants for 6 members who applied for COVID-19 support. Prior to the pandemic, the chapter hosted an in-person Google News training and a café con leche, introducing public relations representatives to its members for networking purposes. And then they also held a training session on Zoom with GLAD. Regarding the UNC student chapter, we're here trying to do everything we can to support them as they continue to grow and in all their efforts there.
Thank you very much, Elwin. I don't know, is Ninette with us, our Region 5 director? I don't see her up. So I'm gonna move forward with Region 6 Director Blanca Rios, who's playing double duty, working today and taking some time to speak to us. Blanca.
Gonna unmute first. Hello, everybody from Chicago. I'm Region 6, which is basically the Midwest region, and it's made up of the Chicago chapter and a couple of other student chapters, which I'll let Angelica talk about. But in our region, we have about, well, prior to our big membership push, we had 217 members, and I know we have more. I don't know the latest number, but I think we at least probably gained a couple, like maybe 20. The Chicago chapter is the biggest chapter there, or the only chapter, and professional chapter. And obviously, since the pandemic hit, a lot of things have been put on hold, including our annual job fair that we hold jointly with NABJ that had to be canceled this year, unfortunately. But we just had, we still were able to award our student scholarships this year. Thanks to our annual fundraiser that we have every year in January, we were able to award 3 students with $4,000 scholarships. And actually one of those is an Hortensia Zavala scholarship funded by Hugo Baltana's family in honor of his grandmother. So we just named those 3 students, and we're really proud. We do that every year. It's mainly why we exist, I think, our chapter exists. But other than that, you know, we're also, I guess in the fall, technically January, we were awarded a MacArthur Foundation grant thanks to Alberto and his help getting us that for Chicago. So we were able to use some of those funds to get students and members to the virtual conference. And we hope to use that. It's basically all for training, so we're hoping to have some more virtual trainings and put that money to good use. Other than that, just want to keep it short. Thank you for everybody, and thank you, Geraldine, for I know this is your last. I just want to say thank you. You became a really good friend, and you're a great financial officer. So thank you.
Thank you, Blanca. And now we go to Region 7 Director, Johnny Cordova.
Hello, everybody. Just making sure you can hear me. Okay, as you know, Region 7 is Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah. Since I have to be brief, I want to also thank Hugo, who's been president and a mentor. I consider him a mentor. Alberto also, because I've learned so much from him, and Geraldine, even though it's only been a year, but you've also taught me a lot. I know you probably don't realize it, but I think you've done that for a lot of people in the way you conduct business and in the way you approach the NHJ. Okay, to the highlights. We did have a new chapter at the University of Arizona this year. They are in the process also of launching a master's program. I believe that because it's only been, this is my first year doing it, I've been kind of learning on the go. And me coming in, I saw my job mainly as strengthening ties with some of the groups that are already in place. We have ALMA here in Arizona, which is the Association of Latino Journalists, and also the NAHJ ASU student chapter. So I'm kind of the new guy for them because they've already been in place for a long time. So I've been reaching out to them. And also I know we had, because I worked before in New Mexico, there's a chapter there in New Mexico that was not active, but it's been revamped. So I'm also trying to reach out to them to work in collaboration. And I'm trying to reach out to some of the people in Colorado because I know there's a chapter there, just to let them know that I'm here, and hopefully we can bring next year or in the next months more virtual trainings to the area. And last, because we were having our little push to try and get more members here before the convention, I know that I reached out to a lot of the members who had their membership lapse, and some of them responded, and I appreciate the feedback. So I wanted to thank those people who gave me feedback on the NHJ as to what we can do better for the upcoming year, and we hope to get you back. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johnny. Our last but not least regional directors from Region 8, Christy Fajardo.
Hello, everyone. So I represent the West Coast, Idaho, Alaska, and Hawaii. And this year, a lot has happened in my region. The Bay Area chapter got the San Francisco State student chapter reactivated and up and going again. UCSB also started a student chapter. The San Diego Tijuana chapter didn't let COVID stop them. They're in the process of holding their election. They also held a virtual fundraiser for their scholarship fund, and then also held a virtual scholarship award ceremony last month for those scholarship recipients. Los Angeles just started a chapter back in, I think it was January. Also has done tremendous work. The president, Cristina Silva, is on this Zoom call. So much applause to her because she has really been a force. They held a mental health panel, a virtual one. I think it was right the week before the convention, so last week. They had a mixer with NABJ, a pre-convention mixer. They are also in the process of holding their first elections. They are working with RTNDA on some of the violence against journalists during the protests. RTNDA reached out and has asked. They're also lending their support to the LA Times Latino Caucus, which is fighting for more Latino representation in the LA Times newsroom. So she and the others have been very busy. Michelle's on this call as well, and she's been really helpful. And our vice president of the LA chapter, Cora Cervantes, also helped with the cultural competency guide. So a lot going on in our region. That's it.
Thank you, Christy. So a little bit of housekeeping. We are running late, so we're going to extend the membership meeting in order to go through all of the agenda and, of course, answer any questions that you have. I'm also going to need to excuse myself in a couple of minutes because I have an appointment with the students' boot camp, but I will come back. In my absence, Alberto will continue to lead us in the membership meeting and through the agenda. And with that said, I'm going to tee up Alberto. He's spoken to us about Palabra, but he has more to share in his report, including training. Alberto?
Actually, Hugo, I think since everybody's here, maybe we start with the bylaws, since Robert, I know, is also on a limited, and then My report is going to be basically a retrospective of the last year, but because this meeting is also being videotaped, we could share it and folks could check it out. But I have a PowerPoint presentation that's going to be attached to it as well. So
yeah, no problem.
Robert?
So Robert, you're up.
Okay, so bylaws committee. Let me pull up my notes over here. So after what happened around the election, there was a movement for people to participate. And there was two committees formed. One was the election committee, and the other was the bylaws committee. The bylaws committee is made up of 9 members. They include Arieles Hernandez, Barbara Rodriguez, Cristina Silva, Dino Kieki, Geraldine Azucar, Keldy Ortiz, Luis Joel Mendez, McNelly Torres, Will Cruz, and myself. We are also in conversations with the pro bono lawyer who's involved with the latest version of the bylaws from 2018. We've been meeting pretty much weekly, every Saturday morning. In fact, we had our 6th meeting prior to this meeting. And one of the things that you've all have seen is that we sent out a Google form for guidance on bylaw committee priorities. We sent that out to the members via email. We've tweeted it out, hoping to collect a temperature reading of what's important to our members in terms of amending the bylaws. We also had our internal priorities, and they align with what we got from the 176 responses. And so we broke it up into 2 kind of phases. The first phase, because of this tight election happening September 28th, we really looked at 3 things that we could tackle that seemed to be at the top priority of the list. The first is transparency, to make sure we're posting our minutes and our necessary documents available to our members on our website. So that is a subcommittee chaired by McNelly Torres. There was some awkward confusion about whether the student representative could vote on board matters. And we are clarifying that and reaffirming that the student representative on the board has the right to vote on board matters. We're also cleaning up some language around those things to make it more modernized. And then the third bucket is clarification around the election in terms of whether, how its relationship of the election is with the annual membership meeting and the conference, and what happens in extreme circumstances. So we're coming up with some guidance on that. The committee is going to continue after this election cycle. And we've got a clear mandate from everyone in terms of a bunch of items, but some top items there that we got from our members and internally is modernize and redefine who is a member of the organization, modernize and review the board makeup. That includes looking at regionals, looking at the VP structure. And what was clear as well is establish a process to penalize or even remove a member who violates the code of conduct. That is a very complicated issue. We don't know what we can do with that, but all of these are complicated issues. And that is why we're not tackling them for this election cycle, but we will tackle them at the next election cycle. We will be holding a town hall the week of August 17th. What we're gonna do at that town hall is to show you the draft languages that we're thinking about in terms of putting it on the ballot. And that will then go into a 2-week process for us to make any changes, talk to the lawyer, get it all airtight by the end of August for the committee work, which we then hand over to the board to see if they need to make any changes. And that'll be about mid-September, but it will be the board has until mid-September to make any changes, that then those amendments will be put onto the ballot for the September 28th ballot. Just to recall two things. One, again, for any amendments to the bylaws to be accepted, 2/3 of the voting members need to approve them. And then another thing is I'm not going to be on the board next year. So there will need to be a board member to chair this committee. We're fortunate that Arieles and McNelly are running for the board. If they get elected, they could be natural chairs, but if not, someone else can step in there. But even though I'm a reluctant chair, I will definitely participate because this is important to me like it is to all of you. If you have any questions, concerns about the committee, feel free to email me at rhernandez@nhj.org. We've been consistently meeting, but it's never too late for you to volunteer and join the committee to help really shape this organization and hold members and board members accountable through these bylaws. So open to questions if there's anything, but that's my report. Just to hug a little bit longer, I want everyone to know August 17th, the week of August 17th, we're trying to finalize the date. There will be a Zoom webinar for everyone to jump in to react to this document. This is something, we're not doing this in a vacuum. This is meant for us to communicate. This is a big thing to tackle. So we want your participation. Thank you.
All right, and actually I'd like to again thank Robert for leading and being along with Blanca, co-chairs of this convention. So I wanted to give you a big applause.
And Yoli and Lucio.
Well, I was going to say, Robert has been leading the programming for the last few years and now in this role as co-chair with Blanca. And he has already, like a true leader, identified folks that can continue on, because you always want to kind of prepare a next generation to continue to bring in new blood. And Yoli Martinez and Lucio Villa have stepped up and have led the programming this year. They plan to be the chairs of the programming committee next year. So big thank you to them. But Robert, also, we cannot dismiss this, and I can't believe we didn't celebrate this more at the beginning, but we are at 3,300 members. And so I want to just give everybody a crazy round of applause.
That is insane.
Especially Robert, who becomes the unofficial membership recruiter guru over the last, like, he was a man obsessed and on a mission.
I was a hype man.
Was...
Thank you to our donors. We had more than 36 donors step up, part of the organization, outside of the organization, just witnesses to what was happening, that put money where their mouths were to get us to surpass 3,000. 3,300? That's insane. Who wants to go to 4,000?
Oh, no, 3,031. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I
don't want to go to
3,000.
3,000 is huge.
3,000 is huge. It's the most that we've ever had. And so, you know, even last week, I mean, when we hit 2,700, we were already flying high. And the fact that we've added 300 more members, I think it's just a testament to all the work that we've all put into this. This is a collective effort. The organization is made up of strong leaders, both especially starting at the local level, with our professors leading our students, with, you know, the board who step up, class leaders. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of great energy. And I think that we're back in a place, I think, where people want to be a part of NHJ in a different way. And I think Robert alone says, you know, NHJ has its swag back. And I don't think no matter how free or how little something costs, if you don't want to be a part of it, you're not going to pay. And to have folks that have stepped up to support our students, to support the organization and support membership, I think is a beautiful thing. So I want to just thank all of you, because all the regional directors went into action, all the board members started donating money, staff, we donated money. And so we've all done it, and it's a collective effort. But Robert, that's to you for leading that. So thank you. All right.
And we invite our members to help us too, you know,
Yeah.
help us because it's a team effort. So thank you to the members that are helping us, and please continue to help us. If you know a friend, you know, a colleague, help us to continue to grow the organization. Gracias.
That's
It goes both ways. Sorry to interrupt. I see Karina is asking for help to help grow members in her area. So it goes both ways. Reach out to us. If I can be a hype man to help get members in your region, I'm here to do that.
The other thing, as a reminder, is that we offer members who are dealing with financial hardship or have been laid off, we offer you a free membership for the year. So that is something that we've been doing for a long time. So please don't take it, you know, don't lose sight of that. These memberships that have come in are not necessarily for that. People have actually donated so people could get a membership, but we do already offer that for students and for regular members. We also offer a free membership for journalists that are living in countries where journalism is considered a potential life-threatening job. And so we want to make sure that, you know, when asked, we provide that membership as well. So we are very supportive of our members as much as possible. And again, this is a beautiful moment. So I have a brief presentation that I'm gonna jump in on and really kind of just share some of the highlights and some of the things that we've been working on. So the board got this presentation during the board meeting, but I'm just gonna go over some highlights here for the general membership. And then if you have any questions, feel free to send us a note. So we're gonna cover more on the membership, next generation initiatives, comms and media, the budget, highlights for the last 5 years, which will include the entire report, and also 2019 and 2020 highlights. So I wanna start with this chart that tells us the membership story right here that we had at the peak. And these are the peak numbers. So because our membership basically is once a month, there's a potential that the membership dips and goes up and goes down. And so if you do a specific month, you'll have to compare the month for all of the years and so on. But at the end of, or the peak of 2015, we had 1,831 members. When I started, I think we were just around 1,500. So within that year, it's kind of fluctuated. But look at that. So we've almost doubled our membership really in that time frame. And you can kind of see year to year, we had a great year in 2018, leading up to our own convention. I know that year we peaked at 2,509. And then it kind of, again, has its ebbs and flows. And so to, again, be at 3,031, yeah, 3,300 is great, but we'll get there. But it's 3,031 is an example of kind of where we've been doing. And again, this is a huge accomplishment. A big thank you to all of our members who have made this happen, and our donors, our supporters, and all of our leaders locally and nationally. It's a privilege to be able to be at this position, especially, I don't know, I think it was all time for it to be around my 5-year anniversary, so I'm gonna take that. No, I'm just kidding, but it's a truly collective effort. Let me share this chart with you. This is the number of scholarships that have been awarded per year. And so you have in 2016, and I'm going 2016 on because that really was my first year as executive director. I came in September. I started in part-time in August, starting with attending all the conventions, and then I started full-time in September. But I mean, everything was pretty much done. So we're kind of going from 2016 on to capture the 5 years. So we were just under 30 scholarships in 2016. We hit almost 90 this year. And that's a reflection of how much money we've been able to allocate support for that, the amount of scholarships that have come in from Maria Elena Salinas that has been doing to CBS for Ana Real, NBC has several scholarships, Univision. So we're now kind of the holders of these scholarships that support this young generation. And so it's very exciting to see. In 2016, we gave out just under $60,000. This year, we're just under $200,000 in scholarships that we've given. And that's not including the local chapters. So if we add the local chapter monies at each chapter, that takes us to another level. But just in the national scholarship amount that we've done per year, this is where we're at. And I think it's a really great example of, again, where the organization continues to be when we are trusted upon to be able to manage this process. We just had another scholarship of $10,000 for Getty Images, which was brand new. Thank you to Nancy for connecting us. So we're in a really good position to continuously support our membership of students. I think most of you know that for the most part, our membership of student base is anywhere between 32 and 35% at any given time. So we've got almost a third of our membership are students, and so we continue to find ways to support them. Let me also share kind of where we've been with social media, and this kind of captures a little bit of kind of the growth and where we've been growing year per year, probably Twitter being our most active account. We have our Instagram that continues to grow, Facebook, and so this kind of tells you the story there. But I want to want to show this slide because it's super important to, before, it almost seems like crazy, but we came up with More Latinos in News. This has been our hashtag. This is something that was developed by BA, Snyder Veritas, and our team. And to date, to be at over 75 million impressions over the last years is really something incredible. And so everybody's kind of taking that on, and it's exciting to see. We've been very strategic about all of our digital campaigns, our communication strategies. We've done a lot to kind of get to this point so that we can continue. And so there's a lot of other highlights, but I just wanted to give you 2 of these highlights as it relates to our More Latinos in News campaign. This chart I want to show you, and this is about our income, expenses, and our net. And so this shows you the first column in green is our income, the blue is our expenses, and then the yellow next to it is the net. What's the gross, the net gross. So this kind of tells you also where we're at. To be at where we are with our income in July is incredible. And I'm very confident that, again, not only we're going to meet our $1.5 million income, but we're going to exceed that as well. The goal is always to balance. We are a nonprofit, so we're not really supposed to be making money every year, but the money is what kind of helps us and carries us over, especially when tougher times are happening. But you always want to have those things basically balanced out so that you're in the black. But the yellow shows kind of where we're at as far as the net gross for the organization. So again, we have some great trends that continue with that. I think because of that, we've been able to make some significant changes in how we operate, but also one of the biggest thing and one of the most important that at the time President Benavides was adamant about was to pay off our internal loan. And that internal loan of $350,000 was paid by the time that he finished his term at the middle of 2018. So without some of these big ways to move us along further financially, we wouldn't be able to be that or be in the position where we are right now. So that's financially strong. Let's see. All right, some of the other things that have been highlights that have happened in the last 5 years. We finally finished our incorporation process that's in DC. And something that people may or may not be aware of is that we were initially incorporated in California. When we incorporated in DC, the process took a little bit longer than expected. But when that happened, we actually got a new federal ID number. So that's important because some of you are probably still using or haven't had a certificate that you need renewal for that gives you some tax discount for nonprofits. So if that's the case, let us know and we'll make sure that we can help you apply for that. But we do have a new EIN and the 2 accounts were essentially merged. But if you're looking for records on the old EIN, it's not automatically going to show up. So know that we do have a new EIN. We also have, we completed a successful NABJ NAHJ 2016 convention. That was an incredible feat. And if you were there was something so magical about that partnership that really, really just was palpable. And of course, I think we were all, when we were planning for 6,000 people in DC this year, and to be at, I think our last count was almost 3,600 people that registered for the convention. That is still pretty amazing. Considering what we had to do and the fact that it was different. So very, very excited. We are working with NABJ again in 2022, 2024, and 2026. 22 will be in Las Vegas. I believe it's the first week of August. We're going to be in Chicago in 2024, and we're in DC in 2026. And every other year, we're going to be on our own. And so we'll announce some of those as well. Other things that we've done successfully, we partnered successfully with EIJ for 4 years. That partnership came to an end last year after 4 really great conventions. 2019 being one of the most profitable. We took a lot of momentum for the success that we had in 2018, and it carried over into 2019. Also, we've done student boot camps. We started that in 2017. The student boot camps are there to kind of build up the confidence of our students, get them prepared. Even little things as giving them, this is how you should present yourself. This is the kind of things you need to dress. Make sure you print your resume. Things that we don't want to take for granted that they know coming into it, but also on how to follow up, making the best impression, And they get to meet a lot of their heroes who come back and tell them and talk to them about their experience as a student. So we've done 4 at the conventions, and we took 1 to Puerto Rico, as Rafael said, and that was really quite special. In 2018, we did our first standalone, well, in 4 years. The previous one was in 2014. And that convention was different for us because we completely reformatted what we were doing. And that's where Robert and I started working together. We wanted to take away, we feel that while panel discussions are important, training, technical training, and digital trainings are the things that are going to be what our members benefit from the most, that help you with all storytelling. So it's not just about a story on immigration or even a roundtable discussion on immigration. It's about how to use data visualization for all storytelling. So, and it's not data visualization for an hour, it's data viz for over 3 days. Wasn't it, Robert? It was, I think, 18 hours of data visualization, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So ever since then, we have continued to do training, not as many as we did, of course, on our own, but we continued that training in 2019 in San Antonio, and we continued that training again this year. So if you noticed, our sessions they were still to an hour, but we really tried to focus on trainings. And one of the things that's going to continue for the next, I think we're doing 3 months after this convention, is that we're going to extend some of those trainings that you got, and you'll see those happen live again. And so if you already registered for the convention, you will be able to have access to those trainings for the rest of the year. We just want to make sure that you feel that you're continuing to get more of that value for your dollar. As I mentioned, we paid off our internal loan of $350,000. To date, I have raised $2.39 million in new money and grants. And so that's something to be really proud of. And we are at 4 years in the black with 4 clean audits. The audit is not complete yet. We are just about finishing it. So the next board meeting will have the board actually approve that final audit. So once that's available, that'll be posted on our website as well. All right, and some specifics on just 2019 and 20. Mental health is one of those things that's become very apparent that we need to provide more support for our members. And we started that in El Paso with journalists in El Paso right after the massacre. We brought in Lou Ortiz, who many of you have seen at our conventions, but also is a former journalist who's done a lot of work on this and really shifted her career to focus on this. And so we brought in we had a discussion with journalists, then we went to speak with students, and then we had one-on-ones. We went back in February and kind of closed that loop and continued to provide that support. We also had a successful EIJ in San Antonio, which feels like another lifetime ago, but was just in September, so not even a year ago. And I know that feeling was different, right? We had the massacre in El Paso. There was another shooting in Odessa, Texas. We literally had to hire security guards and the police department because there was a real strong fear that what does it look like to have these journalists of color in Texas at a time where all these tensions are playing out. But that was truly another successful convention. We launched Palabra in November, and as I mentioned earlier, $300,000 raised with more money coming. That secures the program for at least 2 years, potentially 3. Depends on capacity, but it feels really good to be able to have people respond so favorably for that. We did Puerto Rico trainings. We did the boot camp, as was mentioned, but we also brought PRX International to work with CPI, Centro de Periodismo Investigativo. Because we partner with our journalists in Puerto Rico, we asked what are the things that you need that can help build capacity locally. So we don't want, of course, if anybody wants to leave, they can, but we want to support local journalism that is so important in the island. And so it was podcast training that they were interested in. And so PRX was able to come and join us, and we provided successful training for about 26 of those journalists there. So overall, we had 125 journalists trained there. We've updated our fiscal policies. I updated the employee handbook. I think had not been updated since 1993. So you could imagine that some of those things are a little outdated. A big one for us is we had our first national partnership with Google News Initiative that provided a grant, and we did, through that grant, we were supposed to do 12 trainings. We did 14 and trained 250 journalists. We did 285 journalists. We did it online, which was a shift because of COVID, but really one of the biggest initiatives that we've done specifically as it relates to Spanish language media. And so I think that that's another, we got a lot of positive feedback. We're now looking at how we can extend that. We've had requests from Honduras and El Salvador for us to do that digital training for them. So we're looking to be able to expand that. And that training was really around tools and research tools. Last couple of ones, $853,000 raised so far in grants alone. In the COVID era, from March to the end of June, we trained 1,058 journalists. And everything from mental health to how to get a job during COVID, to coping both in English and in Spanish. And so I have to just be very grateful and thank my staff. They have been incredible, resilient, and pushing through. I love, love, love hearing that all of you are thanking Janet and Leslie Ann and Yunuen and BA. I think we make a really great team, and I think we're all operating at the highest level. And so we're lucky to benefit from that. Mentioned earlier, we launched the Cultural Competency Guide. We have reached a huge membership milestone with 3,031 members. And of course, we're just about over with the end of our virtual convention that was just in danger of not happening. A big, big thank you to NABJ and their staff. You know, it's usually difficult to plan something like this, but to plan something and then stop and completely figure something else out has been quite a challenge. But I will say that NABJ took a lot of the leadership role. And we did discuss a lot, but they really cared a lot. And I'm really grateful to them that we were able to kind of, if there's a lot of success associated, it is really because of what they've led. And if there are failures to it, then really it's them. No, I'm kidding. No, it's their things that we just, you know, it's the first time. So we know that things can always get better. We go through the same process each time when we partner and have a good convention or a bad convention. Everything could always be improved upon, but we're very, very happy, and our sponsors seem to be happy, our members seem to be happy, and attendees seem to be happy. So thank you all for the support. The last couple of things to just highlight, this is our first ever virtual convention. We had over 3,500 scheduled. For NAHJ alone, we had 1,136 members or attendees connected to NAHJ. We had over 3,220 appointments with recruiters between our recruiters and attendees. Now, one thing that's really important, if you don't already know, is that we work in partnership with Journalism Next. They manage our job board. You can upload your resume to that job board as a member, and that's part of one of your member benefits. Recruiters not only pay to advertise in that, but they're also paying for access to the job bank. And so this is a really good way to indirectly be also looking for a job. And that site is for you as a member. That site also manage the appointment schedules. So now we're gonna be seeing more and more that use of that membership tool. So make sure you are updating your resume, especially with the way the job market is. Even if you're not looking, it does not hurt to just consider all your options. So I would suggest you upload your resume as soon as you can. It is a member benefit to you. And NABJ also uses them. So we will be using that same system either way for the next couple of conventions, because as I mentioned, we're going to be doing a virtual component either way. And sometimes people can't get away, or they can't afford to travel, or a combination of all those things. But we don't want you to miss out on the opportunity to meet with a recruiter. And so look for a virtual component of that as well. We have over 120 booths. We had 100 workshops, panels, and trainings. We had events closing tonight with our Gran Baile, and that is open to all members. So if you're not registered for the convention, that's okay. Join us for the closing of the Gran Baile, which is going to be starting with a celebration of some key members that are being recognized, like Ramon Escobar, Esmeralda Bermudez, and Ilia Limon. And the last thing is that stands out is that the expenses for these kind of conventions are minimal. And so usually we have a lot of money that we spend out on hotel, flight, food and beverage, events, and so on. So I feel really great that the reality of this convention financially is also going to be paying out for us in a good way. The one thing I will say that I didn't mention earlier when I was talking about 2021 and the possibilities of that convention is that from my experience in working in the nonprofit for over 25 years, even when there's an economic impact and that people feel it, nonprofit, there's usually a lag time that affects nonprofits and usually extends out later. In part because usually the money's already, given, the commitments from foundations are done, corporate budgets are completed. So even though we are in a COVID era and we have not been impacted the way we expected to be quickly impacted, does not mean that we won't be impacted in the next few years because of the base of our donors, our sponsors, and our grantors. They all will have an impact and that trickles out, but it usually happens to nonprofits 2 or 3 years after. So that's why putting a red light on what could happen in 2021 is not being chicken little, it's just being very conscious that the reality is that that's something we may have to really manage very, very carefully so we're not in a position that can turn around very quickly. That's it. I kind of went through a fast and fury report based on time. Happy to answer any questions, but I just want to leave with this final slide that 33,031 members strong is an enormous accomplishment. Thank you all for making this happen. And we are all stronger because, we're making a difference together. And this is a special time and a unique time for the industry and for the country. And really for the world. And so I think it's an opportunity for us to make it the best.
You have 2 questions. Well,
okay.
Same person. What sort of tracking do we have in place to analyze the long-term impact of training?
We don't. But what we know is that training is not being, professional development and training is not being offered by most employers anymore. And when employers are making decisions, if our members don't have skills that allow them to move on and adjust their skill sets and storytelling, that they're usually being left out in the cold. So for us, making sure that we can provide something that is not being provided is absolutely important.
And then Lucio asked, will there be a chapter corp winner announced this year? The answer is yes, and that's happening tonight.
Yes, that is happening at the right before the Gran Baile, but we are also introducing a new chapter cup, and that's going to be for students. So there's going to be a new student chapter cup that's going to be introduced and awarded this year for the first time, and something we'll be doing every year since we have such an active base of student chapters that are working so hard. We want to make sure we can recognize them as well.
I also just want to emphasize one quick point. Follow up on what Alberto said about next year's convention. For anyone that's attending this Zoom meeting, or if they're not, please share that we do want, the board wants feedback from our members on whether they would be willing to attend an in-person conference or not. We just want to gauge how people are feeling, given that there's so many questions and concerns around COVID still. But as we plan, and because we're going to have to make a decision on this soon, we want to hear that feedback. So it could be that you want to reach out to board members individually. We're available to hear that feedback and any concerns you might have. I just wanted to reiterate that so that we hear back from you in the next couple of weeks on that.
Yeah, the next question is from Christina. What are we doing to urge newsrooms to hire more Latinos and especially Black Latinos during this moment of awareness? For example, I see many newsroom guilds sending letters demanding commitments to diversity by 2025. Does NAHJ have its own campaign on this? I am not sure, sorry.
No, I mean, it's a valid question. The reality is that we are also a really small team, and so that is not something that we've identified as a priority, not that it's not a priority. I think those are campaigns that are usually also well led by local members, but also national board members. It's a tricky balancing act. The focus is getting more Latinos in news, and we're trying to find the other ways that we have control to do that. So with Palabra, we have the ability to create more news and hire people. By providing training, we're providing our members with the opportunity to stay competitive and continue. But there's no direct tie-in to us getting people hired. Even recruiters that come to us like, oh, who do you know? Like, well, here's where you can advertise, you can connect. But we're not a placement agency. And so I wish we had more capacity for the things that we could actively do more, but we are doing what we can proactively. So as it relates to the cultural competency guide, Palabra, training, we're doing what we have control over, but it's absolutely something that's of importance and valuable, but we don't actually have a campaign now.
Any more questions? Alberto, when I stepped out, did Robert and Blanca talk about the conference? Is that next in the agenda?
I talked about it briefly at the end of the highlights, but I think, yeah, Robert and Blanca, do you guys want to close us out with the convention update? That's
There's a question about the convention, by the way.
Which convention?
This one.
Oh,
so
perfect timing.
I can tackle that too. So as Alberto said, Blanca, Lucio, Yoli, and I are conference curriculum chairs. And as you can imagine, it was a hell of a ride. Start, stop, left, right, up, down. It was all over the place. But what was really phenomenal are our track leaders. Those are the people we recruit to take ownership of topics and to ensure creation of sessions or hands-on workshops that are meant to get people jobs, right? If you want to do this thing about underrepresentation of Latinos, well, we need to get you a job. We need to get you the skills. We need to get you in the room to make those decisions. And that's why we shifted our programming with Alberto way back when, and it's been phenomenal. We have, I lost count of how many track leaders we've had. They ebbed and flowed because of the challenges and the changes, but the vast majority were committed to stick it out and to figure out a way to train our members. We originally had about, I think it was like 34 sessions planned. When we went virtual, that was in the before times in real life. When we went virtual, we went to 21 sessions. We were, full disclosure, aiming for 10. We were like, this is chaos, the world's on fire, let's just do 10. But the track leaders were like, yeah, but I want to do this. We think we need to do this. There's stuff that did get cut, and we do want to offer those things. But it was really phenomenal to see the track leaders, for those that are on the board, like Monica and folks that are new to the organization, that are members now, really step up and want to deliver for the organization. Originally, you know, we just pivoted with things. And one of the things that was presented was everything had to be pre-recorded in 1 hour. And we really were like, oh God, that's so not us. So we found a way to respect the 1 hour window. But if you saw, the idea of going to Zoom was something that we came up with. So you can have a live interactive experience, because it's hands-on what we wanted to do. Of course, without a doubt, this is the technology and the platforms, and NABJ's work to put different platforms together to serve its members, from job fairs to live sessions to tape sessions to social hangouts and opening receptions. That all these different technologies coming together is without a doubt very clunky. We've heard feedback on that, but overall and overwhelming, the content offered by the sessions is, I haven't heard of, feel free to send me the negative ones, but I have not heard anything super negative about the content. It's the platform is clunky is what I've been hearing, but overall they're grateful. The ability to jump from one session to another without having to run down the hallway is great. We clearly miss meeting in person, trying to find ways to do that. Blanca, do you want to add anything?
No, I mean, I think you pretty much summed it up, but yeah, I got great feedback as well, and I was really pleasantly surprised to see how well it actually worked, because I really had my doubts in the beginning, and it ended up being, I think, really good. You know, there's a first for everything, and this was a first, obviously, and yeah, there were some issues, but I think people understood that, because you know, it was challenging. I also had the opportunity to work in my employer ABC's booth, talking and chatting with students, and that was really great. I think the chat was, you know, it strangely just kind of worked. I mean, yes, I would love to see people in person, but it was a good experience. You know, the whole planning part of it was, yes, a lot of work, and Yoli and Lucio did so much as well. You know, really, you know, the organization. I mean, Robert, you are so organized. I mean, you've got charts for everything and Google Sheets for everything, and so it's like that really worked. And I think the sessions were great. You know, I got to listen in on some of them. Monica, thank you so much for taking 2 on. I know it's a lot of work, and it was also really nice to see a lot of NAHJ members in our sessions. I don't know if we have a breakdown of who went to what, but that would be kind of cool to know. But it was, I think everybody, I got great feedback, and yes, I haven't really heard anything negative, so let us know.
One thing to add to address Audrey's question in terms of will they be post-2020 convention surveys, we created a Google form that hopefully was submitted. We can only control the content of the NAHJ sessions. We cannot control the content or the presentation of non-NAHJ sessions, NABJ sessions, right? So you'll see a difference in some sessions. The chat was turned on, the chat was turned off, right? There are different little things. I can only tell you about us, or we can only report about NAHJ sessions. We did create a survey to be offered after every session. It was something we crafted just last week, earlier this week, something like that. So hopefully that got rolled out so we can capture feedback on sessions. But yeah, we'll probably try to put a survey out there, at least with the track leaders is what we do every year, to kind of get their perspective of what worked, what didn't. And yeah, if you have any feedback, please send it our way for sure.
And what did you guys all think of the V fairs? I thought that was pretty cool, like the way, was it V fairs? That was the platform, right, Robert?
Yeah, that was the main gateway into all the other ones, yeah.
But thank you. And thank you, Robert. I know we're going to miss you. Well, you're still going to be on it no matter what. You're still going to help out next year.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Robert, Blanca. Great job. Just wonderful pioneering work. You make it look easy, but we know it is anything but.
Don't forget the question. The question was if we're going to have a survey. Did we answer that?
I think Robert did. No?
I did, yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
And Alberto did as well in text.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing I wanted to mention, Blanca mentioned in terms of meeting one-on-one at the job fair. Alberto mentioned this at a board meeting. I hope it's okay to share. I put it in the chat for the panelists. The fact that this job fair was virtual, we now have data of employers, expo booths, and people who came to them for a job. And that potentially could be data we can use to hold them accountable. Hey, 100 people came to talk to you. How many of those 100 people did you follow up with? Right, so that's something, it's more work, let's not lie, but that is something that potential we could dive into. So I wanted to share that.
Yeah, accountability is so important. It's something that obviously we always hear our members ask for. It's something that we discuss on the board. You know, I'm remembering earlier this year, Geraldine and I had a meeting with CBS News executives during the merger with Viacom. And one of the things that we talked about was transparency. You know, it's something that NAHJ and other journalism organizations have been asking for since I think their existence. And the truth of the matter is, and we know it, the media companies are not being transparent because they don't have a good story to tell, which is fine, right? We're not, there's no magic wand into making newsrooms diverse, but you have to first look at what you've got, look for the areas for improvement, and then collaborate with organizations like NHJ in moving the needle positively. And I think that reluctance is a problem. You know, CBS News to their credit, said that they were going to be transparent about their numbers, but we haven't seen that yet. And yes, of course, COVID-19 happened, etc. The coverage of the aftermath of the death of George Floyd, but we need to continue to have them comply with what they promised, and then do the same with other news organizations. Because if not, as I've said before, as other leaders in other organizations have said before, our organization is not going to be exploited. We are not going to take your meeting, whether it's at the conference, whether it's outside of the conference, and you can have that check. Oh, we met with the board of directors. We met with the executive board of NAHJ. That's not going to cut it anymore. And that's why, again, I think it's very important for us to continue to demand, really, for more transparency and really for the numbers that both the members and the board are asking for. Well, the only other thing we have on the agenda is new business, but I think we talked about new business in and out of this meeting. So if there aren't any other questions, and before I
think one item that's come up, I guess it's somewhat new business and not, but Geraldine brought it up at the board meeting, I believe, is because of our financial position, we can look at again now at what our investment will be in doing the archives project for NAHJ. I think that's something that people have brought up on a few occasions. And I believe that Geraldine is in touch with Maggie, and they're working to come up with some proposals. But I know that it's come up at these meetings, so I just thought it was important to just share that.
Sure.
Geraldine?
Yep. So I think, like you said, Maggie Rivas Rodriguez and I have been chatting, and our plan is to, she had already been approached by somebody about this, and she sort of had a quote, but I think, by chatting and trying to think, we're in the 21st century, is there more that we could do once the cataloging of the archives is done? So we're trying to get a couple different sort of quotes of possibilities for us, and then we'll bring that to the next board and be approved, and then be put in the budget for next year, obviously, so that we can allocate that money, and then we can have the project secure, basically.
Great. Anyone else? Anybody from the board? Any parting thoughts?
I have a question relating to our election. I know no one's officially on the ballot yet, but is there a way to give an update on how many people need signatures? It's not an endorsement, but to help people get onto the ballot, can you share those numbers? Who needs signatures, and if people feel inclined to do that?
So, I don't feel inclined in sharing. We discussed this actually with both the election committee and the advisory committee for the election, correct? So we have been, so Melissa, Christy, and I have been in contact with the candidates themselves, letting them know every week how many signatures they have, how many do they need, and the people who have already met the number of the 25 signatures or more, we've already told them to please submit their vetting materials so that we can start the vetting process, so we don't leave it everything after the 12th. The only position that does not, there's two positions, I just triple checked. So the position that worries me the most is the student rep. There are 3 potential candidates, but none of them have enough signatures to make it to the ballot at this point. And the other position that only seems like we'll potentially have one candidate, the other person doesn't have enough nominations, is the academic at-large officer. So there's only one person who has gotten all the signatures they need, and there's one more that needs the signatures. But everybody else seems to be on their way with enough signatures. Some of them are shy, a couple signatures, maybe 3 or 4. So our hope was that we would have a contested race on most of the positions, and it's looking like it's going to be like that.
And for the student positions, Only students can nominate them, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I think, you know, I had a part of the plan that we have, well, we still have some time between now and the 12th, is to email the students themselves and say, hey guys, if you're planning to run, you know, basically connect us to each other, and then try to help other students who are interested get in the ballot. Obviously, as a last resort, if nobody makes it to the ballot, then the next board will have the chance to appoint somebody for that position, to fill in for the student.
Thank you.
Just really quickly though, it looks like there's also that the financial officer might be uncontested. I was just looking at the document.
Yeah, I'm in contact with the other person, and they do plan on trying to get their all of the signatures. So I think there's still enough time between now and Tuesday. I mean, last time I ran, I think I got it
Wednesday.
and a day. Thank you, Wednesday. Last time I ran, I think I got my signatures like a day or two. So it is possible, and some people are well connected, and they know a lot of people in the organization. So whoever's still missing signatures, you know, get your texting Toms going.
Well, you know, they say that even in darkness, there's always light at the end of the tunnel, right? And I think that it is without a doubt really cool to see our membership engaged, to step up, to want to volunteer and help us with bylaws that, as you know, have been handcuffing many boards for many years. The election process, I think it's great. I mean, I think that again, it's another strong sign of where we are as an organization. So I want to thank all of you guys for serving, but also all those who are interested in running. It is not easy, and it takes a lot of time, and that's why it's always a challenge for folks. But we appreciate the fact that you put your time into it. And again, I don't know how Geraldine and Robert can take on more, but they always seem to take on another project. So our apologies to your families.
Yeah, I told my husband, okay, I think it's time for me to leave the board, and then now I have the archival project. So
yeah. So
I was on vacation.
Yeah, same thing with Hugo. Hugo left, and he was convention chair, and then he was taking this on, and so on. So you know, I think that's actually better. Sometimes we've had people that end up leaving so disengaged with the organization that they don't stay, and I think that's a loss to us. So I think to have people continue to engage and share their voice is very helpful. So thank you on our end. Thank you to all of you, the staff. Thank you for all those board members that are here that are going to roll off. You're not gone forever, as we know. So we're just very grateful as a team that we could work together and move a lot of the initiatives forward. And it, again, is a truly team effort. So if you have a chance, join us tonight. It's just going to be a dance and a party and a celebration of our own. You know, I've never been to a virtual dance yet, so I don't even know what to wear.
What you're wearing now, I'm sure we'll be fine.
As long as it's from here up, I'm fine. I don't know if I'm going to wear heels or not, but cool. Hugo?
Las pantuflas.
No. Hugo?
Yeah, just to reiterate, I think, again, thank you to this board, to Alberto and the staff, to the dozens and dozens of volunteers, and to the members of NAHJ. I think that, you know, Alberto alluded to it, you know, silver lining. I think the process that got us to this first ever virtual conference, the process that got us to the elections this year, no small feat, you know, a lot of potholes, a lot of bumps in the road along the way, a lot of discussion and debate, sometimes a little bit argumentative, but in the end, you know, the results are there. And in particularly with the engagement this year in regards to the election, you know, let this year, let the conversations and debates that we have serve not just for this election to be so well attended in regards to candidates, in regards to volunteers. Let this be the first of many elections where we have this same type of engagement and involvement, because our organization needs it. Our organization is only as good as its members. So to see the success of the first virtual conference, of the elections, of the record number of members, in a time where sometimes it could feel like the world's falling apart. And for many of our members, many have lost their jobs during this pandemic. Let's not lose sight of that, but are still with us, are still supporting this organization, are still believing in its mission. So let's take this energy. Let's, of course, celebrate, have a lot of fun tonight, but let's take this energy and roll it into 2021, 2022, 2023, and another wonderful 35 plus years of NAHJ. Thank you very much for everyone for your time. Sorry we ran late. We'll see you tonight en el Gran Baile. Muchos besos, un abrazo muy fuerte de todos nosotros. Nos vemos pronto. Chao.
Gracias.